Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel Think Big Learn Smart. Today the topic of our discussion is sovereignty, and I am going to talk about the following components of sovereignty. I will talk about concept, history, importance, types, monistic and pluralistic perspective of sovereignty. So before moving on to the topic, I would like to talk about few things. First of all, I would like to thank Zara Hayat for suggesting this topic, and the second thing that I am going to talk about is that this topic of sovereignty is a very huge topic. I have just tried to provide you the basic understanding of sovereignty in these following slides. So let's move on. First, we are going to talk about the meaning of sovereignty. What is the basic meaning of sovereignty? So the sovereignty term comes from Latin words sopranos, which means supreme. So you will understand that its meaning is also supreme one. So what it says is that it is a supreme power of the state to take any decision regarding internal and external matters of the state. So this sovereignty gives power to the state to decide the internal and external matters of the country. It makes a state independent and supreme. Sovereignty gives the power. It is internal supremacy and external independence. That's what sovereignty means. It is free to make its own foreign policy decision without external pressure. It can handle its own internal matters without interruption from other states. So what is the history of sovereignty? So in 16th century France, Jean Baudin used the new concept of sovereignty to bolster the power of French king over the rebellious feudal lords, facilitating the transition from feudalism to nationalism. So the basic sovereignty concept came from the France in 16th century. English philosopher Thomas Hobbes also gave his view about sovereignty, who argued that every true state, some person or body of persons must have the ultimate and absolute authority to declare the law. So he gave a supreme authority to a single person so that he can handle all the matters of the state and his words will be the law. Then came French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and that he said that the state is based upon a formal or informal compact of its citizens, a social contract. He gave the new concept of sovereignty, that it's basically the social contract between the state and its pupils. So then the concept by the statement in French Constitution of 1791. So then this sovereignty concept was reflected in the French Constitution of 1791, that said that sovereignty is one indivisible, unalienable, imprescriptible. It belongs to the nation. No group can attribute sovereignty to itself, or can an individual arrogate it to himself. So the French Constitution gave the proper definition to the concept of sovereignty. Then let's move on to the importance of sovereignty. Why sovereignty is important, and I have listed few of the reasons. The notion that governments are free to do what they want within their own territory has provided the organizing principle for international relations for more than 350 years. So the sovereignty concept has provided an organization principle that states are organized in a proper manner in the international arena. So the important part of the concept of nation state system after the Treaty of Westphalia that happened in 1648, it was the important part of the Westphalian Treaty that happened in 1648. So what are the types of sovereignty? I have listed few of the types, but there are also more types of sovereignty. I have just listed few important ones. I will read the names, then I will explain what these types mean and what are they. For example, there are types like titular sovereignty, real sovereignty, legal sovereignty, and political sovereignty. So titular sovereignty implies that the power of a person theoretically and not practically. And we can see that titular sovereignty in the Great Britain, like the Queen or the King have the sovereignty over the state, but they are not the one directly or practically using that sovereign power. Like real sovereignty implies the power of a person both in theory and practice. So we can say that the real sovereignty belongs to the Parliament of Great Britain, that is practicing the sovereignty in its real essence. And a legal sovereignty is that sovereign powers in the handle of law making body. So the institutions of lawmaking institutions of any state are doing having the legal sovereignty, and political sovereignty is a power behind legal sovereignty. Political sovereignty implies that electorate, the vote we provide and the vote we give, through which the political sovereignty is exercised. So what is the monistic perspective of sovereignty? First of all, I would like to clarify that there are two school of thoughts in sovereignty. One is the monastic monastic school of thought, and the second is pluralistic school of thought. And they have different views about looking at the state's sovereignty. So the monastic perspective of sovereignty is that it asserts that state is the supreme social institution and has a unique place in comparison to other institutions and organizations. It gives all the power to the state, and it doesn't considers other institutions influence and organizational influences. So it ordains that state to be one and indivisible. So that's what the monastic perspective is. It comes from monism, like the only single power. In every independent political community where there are some persons or a body of persons who exercise sovereign power, the will to determine is supreme and is not subject to any kind of control. Therefore, he does not obey any other authority. So the sovereign power is indivisible. The division of sovereignty is its destruction. That's what the monastic perspective of sovereignty is talking about. Then let's move on to the pluralistic perspective. It is completely opposite of the monistic perspective, and it says that the state is not the only power in the state, in the sovereignty, but the institutions and organizations also play their own role. So the definition of pluralism, according to Professor Lasky, he writes that the state is only one among the various forms of association, as compared with them, has no superior claim to the individual's allegiance. So it says that it is also just the part of a system, not just supreme enough to have a complete influence. So there have been multiple factors in the pluralistic perspective, and the development of internationalism, that's what has promoted the pluralistic perspective, and the development of public welfare states and organizations, and these have promoted the pluralistic perspective of sovereignty. So that was the concept of sovereignty, and that was all. Thank you very much for listening.